Welcome in, Dragon Swords. I hope you are as excited about this game as I am because, man, I have been having so much fun playing this since launch. Even the demo, I played that for a couple hours. I didn't really want to spoil myself with too much of the content, so I just got to see like what the world was like and what the combat was like, and it was interesting. But man, I'm so glad that I started day one on launch with Hound13's game Dragon Sword Awakening. And I wanted to tell you a little bit about why I'm so excited, besides the fact of the game just being live and it being super fun and it not having gotcha. Everyone knows that. A lot of people have been talking about it, so it's setting a new standard in the space, and I'm super glad for that. But what I wanted to talk about today actually is what's going to be happening in just a few hours, maybe less than a day from now. And that is actually their next live stream. So if we come over to their YouTube channel, we actually see that they recently posted a day ago that they're going to be streaming an all-day live stream on the game. This is going to be their sixth live stream, and this one in particular is actually super helpful and very exciting. Let me just read it for you. Before anything else, they say, thank you. Thanks to your continued support, DragonSword Awakening is on the verge of achieving milestones we could only dream of. 1 million wish lists, 300,000 copies sold, approaching, 10,000 Discord members, 5,000 Twitter followers, approaching. Every one of these numbers is a step you took with us. As a small token of thanks, we're spending an entire day together with you. Producer JYJ and PM Hoon will host live nonstop 8 hours straight. And this is going to be happening in Korean Standard Time on Monday, August 10th, 2026, from 1100 to 1900, which in Pacific Time, it's going to be Sunday, August 9th, 1900 to Monday, August 10th at 300 PT. So if that's not your time zone, or if you don't know military time, go ahead and use Google and figure it out. For me, that is going to be in Eastern Daylight Time. It's going to be Sunday, August 9th at 10 p.m. to Monday, August 10th at 6 a.m. So I'm going to be streaming as much as I can withhold, starting at 10 p.m. The first half of it, because I'm guessing that the reason they're doing it for 8 hours straight and with between two people is that they're going to just give the same information, but allow one person to take a break and get some sleep, and vice versa, right? So that's what's happening. But what they're actually streaming, the content, is what is most important to me. Um, so the program, they're going to be providing a detailed update roadmap reveal. And if you want a little bit more clarity on that, I have a picture here for you, which they've posted in the official Discord. And what that means is a detailed roadmap reveal. It means that they're going to share detailed development plans and future content direction, which is basically what we've all been waiting for. Like they did last time in their live stream, they are going to leak themselves and give us some drip marketing. We already know several characters are coming. We already know another end game mode is coming. We already know just from that last live stream um, that hopefully map expansion and a new story is coming. So with that clarification and all the excitement of the live stream coming up, I've actually put my own first post on this game, which I'm planning on covering a lot more. So here, this is what I said about their post. I put this in a comment on the post that we just looked at. And I said, so I have a confession to make about this game. Somehow, when playing Dragon Sword Awakening, I keep forgetting to log into ZZZ and Wuthering Waves to do my dailies. It's a wonderful problem to have. I have now played 113 hours, and in case you want to see that, here it is, 114.8. I've now played 113 hours, and I am so excited for you guys. This game is already absolutely amazing. I have taken my time, played at my own pace, and whenever I wanted to, which has tended to be every day, lol, and I still can't put the game down. There is literally so much to do. Poison Air Team with Reyna, Charlotte, and Johnny, incredibly fun. Fast paced, and it's just so epic fighting in the air, especially on bosses. This Poison Air, my name for it, single target team with some AoE, is your ticket for any single boss fight you might face. How about the Ice DPS tank team? Again, my name. Clears Tower of Trials and mob rush like a dream for the most part. Since I don't play lollies, aka Dana, I run Eileen, Cerise, and Othello on 3-piece Earthshatterer and 2-piece Elemental gear. And it wipes the floor clean with frosty brutality. Hound13, you guys have truly developed a gem here. I literally cannot wait for the new characters, map expansion, different gear combinations, and new story. Please work hard to drop new content similar to gacha game timing. If you do, DSA and therefore Hound13 will end up beating so many gacha games out of the space in revenue and popularity. Further success is right around the corner. It is so easy to see. More classic cinema incoming from Hound13. And this is to you as viewers. If you are interested in finding out what is up next, find me on Twitch, YouTube Live, and Kick because I'll be streaming it to help interpret the Korean through English subtitles. And I just put in some epic pictures here, as you can see, that the game looks like. So yeah, that's where we're at. That's exactly how we should be encouraging these developers, this company, for this game. So with that being said, I want to address the elephant in the room. And what I mean is that the room is YouTube. The room is Twitch. The room is potentially Kick. And the elephant in the room is particularly culminated or solidified down into one individual's perspective on the game. And since the launch of the game, we have basically been in an experimental phase of trying to learn the game and figure out what is most efficient. And because of that, some people have taken from previous experience with other games and tried to apply that to this game. And there's been some differences because people who have actually done the work, done the math, done the hard study of figuring things out, they have put together some resources for us to use as the community, and other people are still in disagreement with it. They haven't really seen the resources from what I understand. They are just going based on their own experience of how they have played other games, and they want to teach that, which is totally fine. That is their take. But I'm here to tell you that the elephant in the room on that subject comes down to subjectivity or objectivity. It comes down to mere opinion based on your personal preferences, your thoughts, your experiences, or it comes down to the fact of accurate information based on testing, based on math, based on study, based on objective things that are outside of you, outside of your mind, outside of your thoughts, outside of your experience, right? So, to explain that a little bit, I did look into YouTube as much as I could, and I found one guy specifically. You can see his video on the screen right here, and I've watched the whole thing. It was on his guide on Charlotte, which this guy, he's pretty cool. Like, sure, he has some different takes, but what I really like about him is that he just enjoys the game and he enjoys individual characters by playing them and figuring out how to use their mechanics and even do dodge cancels and a lot of movement kind of tech, which is groundbreaking, honestly. Um, so watching his Reyna guide, watching his Charlotte guide is actually really helpful for movement tech, for combos, for builds. Like if you want to travel quickly in a raid, running wise, he can help you that with that. If you want to string your combos together more consistently, fast and smoothly, then he can also help you with that. As far as it goes with Reyna and Charlotte so far. Anyway, within this video, I found that he brought up these two comments, which kind of threw me into my own discovery of what was happening with the most efficient gear, right? So when I first entered this game, I took the perspective of I just need to build attack, crit rate, and crit damage. I know from my previous experience of playing Wuthering Waves and even Zenless Zone Zero and other games that there usually is a sweet spot for crit rate. But at this time, it was basically launch time, so no one knew what the most effective gear or stats were. So we were all kind of in an experimental stage. But now, as I've progressed to endgame, I have seen kind of the gamut of both perspectives. I focused on building attack, crit rate, and crit damage with purple gear. I specifically chose purple gear because I knew it was going to be replaced, and I thought it would be a good experimentation. So I ran purple gear up to level 50 and 40 for my main Poisonaire team, and I was clearing content very strongly, like starting to run, really hard raid hunts and really hard raids, at least normal raid by myself, and level 70 raid with other people. And if you've played the raids, you'll know that the the HP and the tankiness of the bosses scale with however many teams are in the raid, and you can have up to 3. So it becomes harder to kill, not in terms of mechanics because they're the same, but in terms of health and armor. Um, and I was doing great, and then I decided, okay, I've seen the best of my ability, the crit rate, crit damage, and attack build. And what I was using was this gear. As you can see, I have almost 2k attack. I have 95 crit rate, which is almost 100%. Trying to find that sweet spot, right? So I'm experimenting, and I put most of my focus on crit damage. This is also with her karma being fully ascended to 6, her exclusive karma. So at that point, though, I only had like 2 ascensions. So again, the stats would have been even less than this. But this is basically what you can achieve with purple gear. And even if I wanted to make gold gear improvements, right? I could have focused instead on where I focused on crit rate, crit damage. So we got double crit here. That's obviously not a good piece, but we have crit damage here, crit rate here, airborne, which is also what she wants, right? Just looking at her kit, looking at her skills, looking at her awakenings. We have an attack chest piece here with double attack, crit rate, defense ignore, and all status effect additional attack power, which would include airborne damage. Then I focused on crit rate for the substats, or the set effect here, which we got more crit damage, airborne, attack power up. Um, and then the pants, we have double crit damage, actually, and crit rate. So we're getting the crit rate set effect, and we're also getting the 3-piece set effect for our attack power and airborne damage. So that's the stats that you will get if you focus on purple gear, which is what I did for the first part of the game. So after I saw Gamebreaker God's video here and read through these comments, it actually started to change some things in my mind. When I read this first comment, I started to see that certain pieces have priority in regards to the height of substat percentages that you can get on each piece. Basically, on number 3 here, this guy is saying, Mr. Live Ride, he's saying, I don't know if you know, but all stats in the game are fixed stats, both for main stat and substats. What I mean is, chest piece gives the most stats, then legs, head, boots, and lastly gloves. If you roll airborne damage as a substat on chest, it's going to be 125. If you roll airborne implied damage on legs, it's going to be 112, etc., in the order he just explained, right? Chest piece, legs, head, boots, gloves. You can use this to prioritize where you want your highest substats to be. As for Reyna, you want airborne, attack power up, crit damage, defense ignore, armor pen, and crit chance. It used to be called crit chance, but now it's called crit rate to make it easier. They've another thing they've shown to be listening about. And then he goes on to talk to Gamebreaker God and what he's kind of showcased in his video here. So I agree with mostly of number 3 here. There's one part that's off, and it's the armor penetration. Okay. Um, Well, that got me thinking, and I started to read the second one here, which the second one is still in kind of a testing period, I think, for most of the player base. It basically says that if you struggle to put a status effect on the boss, then you need to add more of that status in your substats. So Reyna, for example, when she's in raids, she's fighting Garon. It is very difficult for me to get at least on level 70 and level 90 raids, for me to get a full stack of air status effect on the boss because he has so much resistance and armor, right? So that means I have to go through multiple rotations to try to build up that air, especially if I'm alone. And that's what they're saying. Basically, they're saying, okay, if Reyna is struggling to put air on the boss, then you want to put more air additional attack power up substats on Johnny and Charlotte. They already are air characters that have poison in their kits, but if you put more air on them, they will do more status effect. And then likewise for poison, if you're trying to stack more poison, you need to put more poison in the substats on Reyna so that the whole team is dealing a balanced amount of status effect. So that is what I'm saying is still in the experimental phase. We're still figuring that out. I'm personally still figuring that out, but that's kind of on the back burner or the side burner, if you will, because I'm focusing more so on what has already been proven, which goes back to number 3 here. So after I've discovered that, I said, okay, you know what? I've tried the crit rate build that kind of deals with not only your gear but also your karma, your skills, your awakenings, and honestly your team, how effective you play at your team. But all that aside, what I really started to see from those comments on his video was that there is some changes that need to happen because I just felt like I wasn't doing a lot of damage. So I joined the official Discord and I ended up finding something I think you'll be really interested in. Chances are you've already heard about it, but I want to show you it thoroughly. Not too thoroughly, but I want you to understand where the concept is coming from. So if we come over to Discord here, this is my Discord. Feel free to join it if you want. The link is in the description or connected to my profile. Either way, you'll find it in both places. But if we go to the official Discord, and then we come down and we go through the channels and we click on tips and strategies, we will find on the third title down, gear setup guide and tier list. And you check the pins, you will find on the third pin, WinDia, and it explains a document that she or he posted on as the original post. Some two people, pinned something before, but WinDia is the original poster here. And this is their spreadsheet. Now, before we get to the next part of this video, I want to address the final part of the elephant in the room. And it's really culminated and consolidated down into one individual's last few videos that they've been posting. And it's actually an individual that I actually really appreciate and respect. Throughout the last few years, I've watched his content and he's introduced me to so many games that I've really been thankful for a lot of his takes on things. And I think he's a good content creator. But in regards to some of his takes on this game, I think he is a little bit inaccurate. I think he's also handling it in a wrong kind of way. And that guy is Scion TV. As you can see, this is his channel here, his most recent video, and I've left a comment on it. Like over the last 3 or 4 videos, I've watched them and I've read through all the comments and considered, what has been said. And basically, he is kind of downplaying what has come to the community as meta, or as I would like to call it, just most efficient. It doesn't matter if it's popular or not, but it is popular because it is most efficient in this game. And to give you a little background information of what he has said in this video, which I provided direct quote, and then I give you a summary of what he does for the rest of the video. He gets halfway basically, and then after, well, maybe more than halfway. So yeah, right at the 15-minute mark, he starts into his dailies until about 20 minutes. So what I've written will give you that summary and what I'm trying to address with this elephant in the room concept. So I wrote, so the main content of this video showed that bleed gear, stun gear, and lightning gear isn't really that good, quote unquote, for a three-piece set based on its set effect. The only gear he gave praise to was the fire gear for its uptime on the crit rate due to constant burn. The fact is, however, there are only 9 sets of craftable gear in the game, and Scion, though I greatly appreciate him as a content creator from many other games, mentioned that 3 out of 9 of them suck. After he realized where the factual direction of his investigation video was going, he quickly changed his tune to further downplay Earthshatterer, a specific gear that we're talking about, Earthshatterer gear set, and moved to farming some dailies before ending the video. That is legit what happened. Had he continued exploring the craftable gear, however, viewers would have seen that the poison gear 3-piece set effect sucks, that the shock gear 3-piece set effect sucks, that the break gear 3-piece is meh, okay, and that the ice gear 3-piece is better, but not by a long shot. And finally, that the airborne gear 3-piece set effect is mid plus. But why, you might ask, does the ice gear, which has crit rate and crit damage, suck for the most part too? Why would you ask that? Why would you think that? Well, this is because crit rate and crit damage in this game will only take you so far against a boss with lots of crit resistance and a ton of armor. This means that presently in the game, 2 weeks after its launch, there is only 2 craftable gear sets that are a cut above the rest, Airborne and Earthshatterer. Granted, you can farm for HP gear for healers if you want, but since defense stacking gear isn't in the game, and since crit rate and crit damage has diminishing returns after a certain point, especially without 8,000 to 9,000 attack, Airborne and Earthshatterer stand out the most in terms of pushing through the boss's armor for DPS efficiency. The break damage gear becomes somewhat helpful, but because bosses only get broken every so often before they quickly recover, it's not that great in the long run. The break gear could even be argued to be worse than the stun and bleed gear, with the same argument that the armor penetration substat is far weaker than the defense ignore substat mathematically. At least the bleed would do constant damage and the stun would bring in crowd control, stopping the boss altogether for a time. But at the end of the day, the Earthshatterer defense ignore gear is the superior 3-piece set effect beyond all the gear simply because it ignores armor altogether. There may be room for the farmable attack power gear to fit somewhere close to Earthshatterer, but the math doesn't lie on this subject of gear efficiency. Earthshatterer's defense ignore scales beyond the effectiveness of crit rate and crit damage in terms of damage per second. Let me read that again. The Earthshatterer gear, the defense ignore gear on the 3-piece set, scales beyond the effectiveness of crit rate and crit damage in terms of damage per second. Though the defense ignore works simultaneously with some crit rate and crit damage, it primarily scales based off attack percent, attack power up as it's called, and flat attack. This is why the majority of players are using the Earthshatterer 3-piece and the Elemental 2-piece. After all this, there is no need to argue over subjective opinions when the mathematical results, the factual objective results, are out there in a free and open document for all to see. It can be easily found in the official DSA Discord under the Tips and Strategies channel and in the pins posted by WinDia. WinDia and many excellent gamers and math nerds from the DSA community built this document together, which, in my objectively informed opinion, based on the facts mentioned above, plus experience, plus WinDia's document of mathematically proven information, holds far more weight than a single content creator's subjective opinion that pushes against the facts. So, before we continue reading the little bit left of my comment here, let's look at this document. So some of it is in Korean, of course, and there's a Q&A section too. At the very beginning, it kind of talks about the guide and how to use it. Gives you a notice as to not change things and what will happen if you do. For the most part, there are things you can change, but just to be cautious with changing things and make sure that they are factual. And mostly what I use it for is 3 tabs. I use the English tab, I use the best in slot stats tab, and I use the recipe tab for cooking. But outside of that, there's even more information over here that we will get into next. Um, even some map information. But if we go to English, basically what a lot of these content creators and streamers have been complaining about is the fact that every character on the roster is using Earthshatterer. They're using Earthshatterer 3-piece and they're using Elemental 2-piece. You can see that here under armor set, and we have helmet, we have chest, we have legs, we have gloves, we have boots, and then we have recommended runes, and runes if attack is below or above certain parts, certain attack, right? So every character, as you can see, has Earthshatterer on this document. Now, when I first saw this, I wasn't exactly happy, because it's an awesome game. It's amazing to play. It's been amazingly fun. It's been making me forget to log into my gacha games. It's just been great. But when you find out that you have to apply a cookie cutter gear to every character, it kind of takes some of the fun out of it because, first of all, you didn't discover that. And second of all, there's no variety. Well, there is a variety, but one set of gear just stands out amongst the variety for now. But again, we are only 2 weeks into the launch. There is plenty of time for the developers to either nerf Earthshatterer or to come out with even better gear with a well-balanced um, variety for all of the characters to utilize. So once I discovered that I had gone as far as I can with the attack, crit rate, and crit damage gear, I decided, okay, I don't fully understand until I spoke to WinDia themselves. Um, I don't fully understand this gear combination, but I'm going to give it a try. And after talking to WinDia, it made even more sense. So I started to craft my gear. And what I have gotten to is what we can see here in game. If you come back to my Reyna and you look at her gear, here's the purple gear. But if we come over to these presets, which, by the way, some long-term games who have been out for years still don't have presets, and they launch the game with presets. If we come over to the presets, this is my current gear that I'm using on Reyna now. And as you can see, I'm going to gain a huge amount of attack. I will lose some HP. I'm going to gain a huge amount of defense ignore. I'm going to lose some crit rate and some crit damage. And as you can see, there will be other negative stats and positives down here, right? Break additional power, Earthshatterer 3 set, Azure Gale 2 set. So let's just go ahead and just look at our overall stats here. In fact, I'll even do you a solid. I will screenshot it for you on record so it's easier for you to see. And now we'll switch. There you go. So I went from 2K to 5K, and I went to from 95% to 81 and 162 to 156. Okay. Now, in that process of finding out this gear and putting it together and actually experimenting its effectiveness, I found out that the sweet spot for crit rate, which is also talked about in the document, it's basically around 88 to 110%, maybe 120 if you want to go that high. And that's kind of based on the resistance that bosses have, the hidden crit rate stats that are already built into our kits that we can't see, and when you subtract from the boss's crit resistance how much crit rate you will have that will still be in the efficient or non-efficient range, which again is 88 to about 115 or 120% crit rate. Most people are saying that for the 90% crit rate, they are critting basically every single time. So, sure, at that point, build more crit damage. But the Earthshatterer gear prioritizes defense ignore because for every time on the 3 set that you use a signal skill, you're going to gain 20% defense ignore for 10 seconds. And some have made the complaint and the argument that 10 seconds is really not that long of a time. But in actuality, when you are moving really fast and combating against a boss who is also moving pretty quickly, 10 seconds is actually a long time because you can trigger 4, 5, 6 signal skills within 10 seconds at the very least. On a boss, however, especially in raids, that becomes a little bit more difficult, which we will talk about. But basically, this is more effective because defense ignore is taking all of the attack power that you have and filtering it through your crit rate and your crit damage. So the higher your attack power, the more you're going to ignore their defense, basically. So again, I'm not even fully built here, right? Of course, I can get to level 70, and of course, I need more titles to bring on those passive stats. If you don't know what I'm talking about, talking about the mercenary crew over here, and then you get titles as you complete achievements, and they build up passive stats. So yeah, I haven't gotten all my titles yet. There are still some improvements that I can make, even after she's been fully awakened with a fully ascended exclusive karma. You can even put on food that will increase things even more, right? So that's kind of where we're at, and I've gotten a full team of that now with my Poison Air team, Reyna, Charlotte, and Johnny. And I am just demolishing content, you know? Like just going into a level 90 or a level 70 even raid is just almost 90 is harder, but 70 is a piece of cake. It's not hard at all. And I'm not even at the 8,000, 9,000 range. So going back to our document here, this tells you you want to prioritize attack percent or attack power up on all of their main stats, right? Helmet, chest, legs, gloves, boots, right? Then based on where your crit rate is or where your attack power is, you want to change up the runes. And then it kind of tells you runes over on the right side and what to stack. But I wanted to also show you this page because this page actually shows you all of the stats that people have actually achieved on the game at the full end game. So for Reyna, for example, since we've already looked at her, this person at level 70 got 8,497 attack. They got 113 crit rate and they got 155 crit damage. And they have a 3-piece Earthshatterer gear and a 2-piece elemental. And as you can see with their runes, they have 4 attack runes and 1 crit rate rune, which is definitely the highest stats that you can get on the runes, I'm sure. And you can go through here and look at all the stats of your specific character that you like or that you're building and see how high they can actually get. See what gear they're actually using. This is the most effective way, and this is not just WinDia who has made this gear or made this document. This has been a community effort of lots of gamers, like my comment said, and math nerds who have actually done the math in this document somewhere. I forgot where it was, but they have done the math. WinDia confirmed that to me, that compared to the DPS charts, um, Earthshatterer is more effective with a two-piece elemental set on every single character. That includes Tart, the healer. 8,528 attack, 113.03 per crit rate, 173 crit damage, right? They could have built HP, and she has 13,593 HP, but they ran her for DPS. I mean, she's going to be on the field anyway for however long, you might as well, right? And the same could be said for loot. He's at the very top. 8,557 attack, 113.03 crit rate, 153.30% crit damage. And he's running the stun gear actually as a two-piece. So, when it comes to proven fact, when it comes to mathematically accurate assessments, who are you going to believe? Which one is right? Is it the guy who has an opinion, who's played a lot of games, who's covered the broad aspect of games and covers games as a part of his channel? Or is it a community effort of people who have gotten together and said, hey, this is what works. We've tested the numbers, we've tested the gameplay. Here's screenshots, here's the numbers, here's other information. To me, it seems like WinDia's document is accurate. Now, coming back to the little bit left of my comment here, what I said was the math, screenshots, and testing have proven this to me after 113 hours of daily gameplay, focusing on the typical attack rate, crit rate, and crit damage builds first, Scion is arguing for in the beginning, and switching to the Earthshatterer efficient build in the endgame. If we don't want to lead people wrong or provide bad teaching, which is something he was talking about in his video, we need to get our facts straight for this amazing game and these awesome developers who do not need more drama on their plate. As for me, I'm celebrating with them because their current success is only the beginning. The new standard, or really the old standard, they are creating in the gacha space through this game is going to reality check many gacha players for the best. Now, as a last little bit for you to consider as you figure out for your own playstyle, for your own priorities of gear and what you're going to apply, which it's already been shown to you what is most efficient, I want to encourage you to do your own study. Look into it. Watch a bunch of YouTube videos if you will. Go to WinDia's document and check it out for yourself. But after that, if you look at this part, the help button in game, and you come over to super armor, I want you to think through this with me. Think about this applying to a boss and not just us as characters, right? So we got super armor and we got break. So on that subject, all units possess super armor. So that's us, our characters, and bosses and enemies. While super armor is active, taking damage will not trigger a hit animation. When super armor is completely destroyed, the unit enters a break state and becomes vulnerable to physical status effects. We're about to define that, so hold on. The break state is lifted after a certain amount of time, and super armor is fully restored. Okay? Well, if you have played against the raid boss, you know that a certain amount of time is actually really short, very short. He almost immediately recovers his super armor. So, with that being said, let's look into status effects. Status effects, you can take notice of these pictures, one on the left, one on the right. There's a separation, a space in between. Status effects are divided into physical status effects, which we saw over here, right? Physical status effects. They are divided into physical status effects and elemental status effects. Hitting an enemy with an attack that has a status effect causes the effect to stack. Once the stat count reaches a certain threshold, the target is afflicted with that status effect. Enemies afflicted with a status effect take increased damage for the duration of the effect. So, which ones are the physical? Well, you can infer that for yourself, right? We have fire, we have lightning, we have ice, we have poison, and we have bleed. These are elements. So that means stun, airborne, which is interesting, and knockdown are the physical status effects. So this is basically saying that if you want to apply a physical status effect to the boss, you have to break them to apply it faster. Sure, it applies in little bits, but this also implies that elemental status effects start stacking faster to break or to do damage to the boss. With that being said, which would you rather have? Would you rather have lesser gear with numbers that you think is best and you deal less damage because the boss's armor is deflecting it? Or would you rather have defense ignore that actually pierces through that armor and gets your damage off to the boss, killing him faster while stacking your status effects that are physical and elemental? If it's me, I'm going to choose the latter. Now that the facts of Earthshatter have been thoroughly proven, if we really want to get efficient and optimized with our gear, and the first installment of endgame content in raids, then we really need to just start coordinating our teams of individual characters with the other teams we are raiding with to purposely trigger more signal skills for faster runs based on the head start the Earthshatter gear is giving us for the new incoming content. What do I mean by that? Well, first off, this is not going to be the only end game content that we have. It's only been 2 weeks after launch. Give them a chance, right? But second off, what I'm mainly talking about is that when we go into raids, I'll just show you. When we go into raids, we have 3 players made up of teams of 3. So we have 9 characters fighting the boss at once. If it is hard to get a full stack of air on the boss to trigger Reyna's signal skills, then we need to coordinate with the other people playing with us in the raids and ask them to use another Reyna or to use an Eileen or to use someone who is also going to stack more air so that we can trigger more damage to the boss within each individual character's kit. So if someone is running the ice team, I can say, okay, well, this person down here is running fire team, this person right here is running ice team. I can just change to my ice team. And then we'll do more damage to the boss because we'll have more signal skills, which is going to activate that Earthshatterer 3-piece set effect. So basically, I mean, if you see me running poison air in a raid that you just joined, then help me out, man. Be a friend, be a brother. Likewise, I'll do the same for you. And lastly, to all you ungrateful curmudgeons complaining about this game right as they finally start to reap the success of the developers' hard earned work over the course of years, yes, I have followed them for years, you need to chill out. Like, I get it. You want things to fully be operational, you want them to be easy, offering all the qualities of life, and be completely smooth. But don't forget, you only paid as little as $30 to play this game and have easily got way more than your money's worth of fun in the last 2 weeks since the game launched. So, again, chill out and be thankful for what you have and the fact that the game isn't pressuring you into to spending obscene amounts of money with power creep and all the predatory problems of gacha games. Take a deep breath and repeat after me. Let them cook. In fact, beyond even letting them cook, I'll even go a step further and encourage you to be far more of a positive influence in the space, building up new players up with accurate, objectively proven information while also supporting the devs with patience, encouraging support in your content creation, and even paying for some really inexpensive skins and mounts to show your appreciation if you have the means. All I'm saying is that whatever you do, let it leave the tone of thankfulness and support. The last thing we as players, viewers, and content creators in the DSA community need is your petty squabbles over subjective opinions and unoptimized quirks. Those kinds of complaints, arguments, and attitudes are fitting of gotcha games, but not buy to play anime action RPGs, especially when it is clear to see that Hound 13 is doing their very best with what they can after coming out of a lawsuit and winning, and listening very closely to our feedback to craft a masterpiece of a game that is setting a new standard in the gotcha and non gotcha space while it is actively living and growing. If you're going to leave critique and you want more players to join the community with your content being heard and not ignored, then be respectful, cordial, unselfish, patient, kind, and objective. Keep your critiques on topic for the devs and post them in the provided channels on the official Discord. Any other verbal or video complaint is only going to breed more drama that no one wants or needs. With all that being addressed, let's set a new standard with Hound 13 tomorrow during their live stream and actually join in the celebration with them rather than acting like ungrateful children. The devs need encouragement, laughter, celebratory comments, and invigorating and exciting questions in these coming days and weeks. Go tell them how thankful you are and watch them light up around the globe.